Well, hello, and welcome to Bio 211. This is lab preparation for articulations, or the joints. Inside your textbook, this is Chapter 9. In this AMP1 lab, what we're looking to do is look at how we look at joint classifications. Are they fibrous joints, cartilaginous joints, or synovial joints? And then what happens specifically at the movement at synovial joints. You're going to notice that the major selected joint of the body that we want you to pay attention to in this class is going to be the knee. Okay? We're going to, as we build up to examining the knee, we're going to speak specifically about how it is we actually make specific types of synovial joints, okay, and actually how they move and movement. Move, M-E-N-T. Okay? So let's get to it. Well, joints can be classified in many different ways. Joint classification. They can be fibrous, cartilaginous, or synovial. Fibrous are held together by dense collagen fibers. Doink. That's not all that hard. Cartilaginous can be held together by cartilage. That changes, actually, depending on how we age. And then synovial joints are held together by ligaments. This is the important characteristic, especially when we're thinking about how we're going to build a knee. You actually have to hold the knee in articulation, meaning in a semi-straight line, so that the epiphyseal bones, meaning the bones that can articulate, don't contact each other inappropriately. Now, we can do this classification in a slightly different way as well. You can use big fancy words, such as synarthrosis, which is the description of an immovable joint. Think of the sutures in the skull. Amphithrosis, these are slightly movable joints. We'll give you an example of those in a minute. But diarthroses, these are freely movable joints. And for the purpose of this class, all diarthrotic joints are synovial joints. Okay? Yay. Let's get rid of the cartoon. Let's go like that. So, let's change here. Let's go like that. Here's a fibrous joint. It actually lacks a synovial tissue, and there are three types of these: sutures, syndemoses, and gomphoses. When you're looking at, and inasmuch, what we want to do is we want to think about how Mother Nature has placed these different types of joints where she's placed them. Let me give you an example of, say, the gomphoses. Okay, here's a gomphosis, gomphetic joint. This is your tooth inside an alveolar socket or process. You actually have a ligament inside here, and this is a fibrous joint, which means that tugging you feel at your teeth when they're about to fall out, that's what's actually holding it in place. The next type are cartilaginous joints, and we saw a fibrous cartilaginous joint down here when we were thinking about how it is you put the pubic symphysis together, or maybe in between each of the vertebrae, right? Those are all cartilaginous joints. But the ones you don't think about here during developing bone, these are actually joints that over time, these will be converted into complete bone. So that's what I meant by, as you age, we change the number of joints we have inside of our body. When we're thinking about how synovial joints function, we actually have to create a capsule. Literally create a capsule that will have synovial fluid inside of it. And that synovial fluid reduces friction by lubricating the joint, absorbing shocks, supplying oxygen and nutrients to the cartilage itself. It's very slow because this is avascular tissue, and it's going to remove that carbon dioxide as well as metabolic waste from that space. Now here's a picture of a synovial joint. You'll see that there is an articulating capsule outside, and you're going to see in yellow here is the fluid. Here's the blue that I drew at the end of bones for the articulating cartilage, right? Our articular cartilage. And remember, that's hyaline cartilage. And what I want you to see is you actually have a synovial membrane in red. You're literally producing synovial fluid inside of this space. Okay. Now, inside the lab, we put this table together, so you actually look at the different types of synovial joints. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sort of skip right down to the different types of joints that are functioning, and they're functioning so that they can glide or allow for angular movements. And the types of movements are flexions, extension, lateral flexion, hyperextension, abduction, and adduction. And these are ultimately for those joints that can support it. At a synovial joint, say circumduction, you can actually create a circle or rotation. Think about how things move inside your wrist. More importantly, though, we have special movements inside of our body where you actually will elevate or depress the jaw, protract or retract the jaw, invert or evert the actual foot itself. And then there's dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion, pulling your foot off of the accelerator. Plantar flexion, pointing your foot onto the accelerator. Supination, pronation, these are important. We learned them back in the beginning of AMP1. And this is really the whole point here. Think about what we're doing. We're now adding on to our vocabulary of movement from the lines of the body towards the midline, away from the midline, towards the site of insertion or site of action, right? The last one that makes us human, of course, is we actually have oppositional thumbs. Okay, but we'll move on from there. I don't really want to go through all of this. There is a table inside your textbook. For the practical, I'm probably going to use the table inside your lab notes, but for your exam inside class, if I were you, I'm paying attention to this for the definitions of movements at synovial joints. I do want to get to, though, where we need to be. Let's go here. There are types of synovial joints, and they are planar, which are also called gliding. So I'll put this here, Gliding, because that's what's inside your lab notes. Hinge, pivot, condyloid, saddle, and ball and socket. Plane means it's a plane. A hinge means you formed a hinge. A pivot, a place where it will literally move in one direction or another. Condyloid means a surface, an inverted, rounded surface. A saddle, think of a saddle on a horse. And ball and socket, think of how it is if you put your hand in a fist and you cup, take your left hand, turn it into a fist, take your right hand, place it as a cup around it, you now have a ball and socket joint. Okay, so what do these actually look like inside the body? Planar joints or gliding joints between bones inside your feet, side to side, back and forth movement. Hinge joints, think about your knee and your elbow. Okay, think about how you did your reflex tests on the knee. How did it move? Remember? It actually hung at 90 degrees. Makes sense? Pivot joints, you actually have the pivoting between articulating bones, okay, as well as condyloid joints, the formation here of an angle of that scaphoid and lunate bone here with the radius and the ulna of your forearm allow for notice how if I put a line here, in fact, I will draw the line for you, okay, in green. It creates a cone. It creates a condyloid structure, a bone, oval-shaped depression inside the bone here accepts the sum of those bone structures. Okay. So let's get rid of the cartoon. Let's go here. I know there was one more I wanted to show you guys. There it is. There's the saddle joint right there. This is going to allow for the thumb to actually work appositionally. You can see between the bones here. That allows you to take a look at your thumb. You can actually get it to move in sort of irradiating and up and down movement. And this is much like I just told you about. The shoulder and the hip are put together in a ball and socket joint. Okay, so for class, meaning your final exam, this is a really good table. It's table 9.2 that gives you the different types of joints. In fact, in class, I'm probably only going to use this table to go over all of the material inside Chapter 9 for synovial joints. That's how useful this table is. What I do want to spend the last minute or so talking about is how do we build a knee. Okay, and you should be able to draw this. Here's the femur, here's the fibula, here's the tibia. And it depends on the leg you're looking at. Are we looking at the right leg or are we looking at the left leg? Because the medial aspect will always be toward the tibia, if that makes sense. Here's the tibial collateral ligament. Here's the medial patellar reticulum, which is not on your list of structures to know. Okay. In fact, on page 13 of your lab handout, you should be able to see the tibial collateral ligament. Let me put on this here. Tibial collateral ligament. you should be able to find the fibular collateral ligament. There you are right over there. Notice it attaches to the fibula. Okay, you should be able to find the actual intracapsular ligaments. These are ACL, PCL. And these are going to be a little bit harder to see here. Let me see if I can find it for you quickly. Arcuate popliteal, no. ACL. Not on this cartoon. Not easily. I'm going to have to open you up. Okay, so we will open you up in a second. Here's your oblique. No, no. And here should be your posterior right there, but it's not. Okay, so far we have tibial collateral ligament and fibular collateral ligament. That could be lateral collateral, and that could be medial collateral as well. Okay, so let's get rid of the cartoon. See what happens when I open this knee up for you. Bang. There they are. Fantastic. There is your, go back to here. Here's your posterior cruciate ligament right here. There's your fibular collateral ligament. There's your lateral meniscus. This is fibrocartilage sitting here inside the knee. Okay. Here's your anterior cruciate ligament right there. And the way you draw this, of course, is it's essentially, there's femur. Here is your tibia. Here is your fibula. And remember, I told you, this is going to be the lateral collateral ligament here. Here's your medial collateral ligament here. And then you just draw an X. Okay, if it's the front, that's your anterior, ACL. And then in back, you'll have your PCL. Articulating the actual bones here is the medial meniscus and then the lateral meniscus, which means if this is your fibular point here, that'll be your lateral side over there. And you're going to notice when I have you draw this, I'm going to ask for a specific leg. So this way I can tell if you understand why Mother Nature builds it the way she builds it. That's a pretty good stopping point. Okay, I think there might be one more image here in terms of the knee itself, but these are selected joints inside the body. I'm not going to spend any time thinking about those with you, unless you want to think about maybe the atlo-axial joint. How do you actually have the bones of the how do I say this? Atlas and axis, so that you can actually turn your head and lift it up and down. I'd say if I put anything here, it'd be, I'm going to be looking for the bones of that. Okay? Cool. Okay, so again, remember, go through the physical structures inside your lab handout. Notice how I've tried to direct you here, and we'll see how this goes inside lab.